Hello friends, welcome back. It's been a while, but don't worry, I have not forgotten you. You know what you've come for today. It's a bit more of the battering ram of consequences in Oh No Consequences, the subreddit. That's the name of it. Okay. Am I the a-hole for finding a new wife after my wife gave me an ultimatum to open our relationship, which was not an actual ultimatum? My wife became obsessed with an open relationship, and when I refused to engage about it, she gave me an ultimatum to open our relationship or we will get divorced. I told her to file for divorce, but I cooled down a bit afterwards. I decided that a divorce is not right for me right now. I had gained a bit of weight and I hadn't dated in over a decade. I didn't even know where to freaking start. I didn't think I could have handled dating and divorce at the same time. So I agreed to an open marriage. It's been 2 years since then, and I have worked myself and prepared myself for divorce. I have been dating a woman for 1 year now, and I think she will be a good wife and good company for the kids. So we have decided to get married. I finally told my wife that I want to marry my girlfriend and I will be filing for divorce. My wife is not happy about it. At first, she said that we are already open, so there is no need to leave. I explained to her that I don't want an open marriage, I just want a simple life and my girlfriend can give it to me. She then asked why I agreed to an open relationship, and I told her that I just needed time to find a new wife before divorcing. I just want to be married and live a normal life, and I thought that it's better to find a woman first before divorcing. She was going to divorce me if I didn't agree, so what was I even supposed to do? She said she made that ultimatum in frustration and she never would have divorced me if I refused. What am I even supposed to do with this information now? Like, it's over. I think it's the right decision for me to divorce and marry my girlfriend. Hey, yo, I don't know about you, but this one really confuses me in their logic. And I mean that for both the wife and the OP here. Like, what's this logic of...
Hey, OP, that heartbreaking thing I said to you earlier and never actually rectified it or corrected you on it? That's your fault for not assuming so. It's up to you to monitor my emotional state when I say things, not me, the adult.
But then also, this guy just riding the wave of this woman's wants and needs purely so he has an exit strategy. I mean, she might be immature, but this guy is like, kinda manipulative, I think. What do you reckon, though? I pass that off to you. I mean, even comments are kind of swayed between the two. The wife is an a-hole for issuing this ultimatum without actually walking back on it beforehand after realizing she was just being emotional about it, but then him monkey branching to his next woman behind her back. With another great final point here, if he's looking for a completely monogamous woman, is he certain his girlfriend, who willingly dated a married man in an open relationship, is really the one for him? But again, to defend the guy, I do have to feel like it's similar to a lot of stories out here where husbands want an open relationship, and from that moment the wife is just, it doesn't see him as her husband anymore, and naturally she just starts looking around herself and accepts that the relationship's over. And we all support and praise that, and that's clearly kind of exactly what's happening here. Meanwhile, over in relationship advice, how do I, 43 female, help my husband, 58, accept the harsh reality that his 33-year-old daughter doesn't want a relationship with him? And yeah, looking at the comments, it seems to be another case of cheating around and finding out. My husband and I have been together for 18 years. He was married at the time we got together. He had what can only be described as a midlife crisis and left his wife, 56, to be with me. His ex-wife did not see it coming and was completely blindsided and devastated. We take full responsibility for what we did. We make no excuses and realize that we caused a lot of pain to a lot of people and that we will have to live with the guilt for the rest of our lives. He shares 3 children with his ex-wife, 33 female, 27 male, and 25 male. At the time the affair came to light, his sons were 9 and 7, so he and his ex-wife decided not to tell them why they were divorcing until they were a bit older. But his daughter figured it out before they could tell her, and to say she did not take it well would be an understatement. The only reason she didn't tell her brothers was because her mum begged her not to. She only came over to our house for visitation twice. She was alarmingly angry and called me and my husband every name under the sun. It was so bad both times she came that her parents decided to temporarily halt visitation and put her in therapy. It didn't help. It came to a head a year later when we discovered that we were expecting our daughter, who's now 17. My husband went to tell his kids, and his daughter flew off the handle. She told him that she didn't want him in her life and that he was dead to her. My husband later admitted that she also told him that she hoped I had a miscarriage. My husband tried to push bio mother to force a relationship, but as she, his brother, and his daughter's therapist all told him, that was a bad idea. The therapist told him that forgiveness would have to be on his daughter's timetable, and that all he could do was continue to show that he cared and loved her, and leave the door open for reconciliation. But that forgiveness never came. Despite his attempts throughout the years to reach out and reconcile, he wasn't invited to her high school or college graduations, nor was he invited to her wedding, which wrecked him. He hasn't even met his grandchildren. When he heard that she was pregnant, he reached out and again begged for forgiveness, and even pleaded that if she couldn't forgive him, to at least let him be in his grandbabies' lives. She didn't relent. She told him that being a grandparent was a privilege, not a right, and that he forfeited that privilege by doing what he did. Amongst some other unsavory things, she told him that he had her brothers and his replacement daughter to give him grandkids. Since that conversation, my husband has been on antidepressants. Come to present day, and her brother just got married. To keep the peace, my stepson asked us not to approach her husband, or her kids, though I'm sure that was more her request than his. Her twins, 4 male and 4 female, were the ring bearer and flower girl, and so at the rehearsal was the first time my husband saw his grandkids in person. I saw my husband's reaction and could see that he instantly fell in love with them, and I was afraid he would break down. He did start to get emotional and had to step away. He put on a brave face for the wedding, but I could tell he was heartbroken. Since then, my husband has been an emotional wreck. He has been crying himself to sleep most nights, and in an emotional moment questioned if losing them was worth it. Our daughter is starting to worry about her dad, and I don't know what to do anymore. I've tried to get him to therapy, but he thinks that the therapist will just tell him it's all his fault, that he's a horrible father, and that there is nothing he can do but wait for her forgiveness. I mean, we know we did a terrible thing, but my husband is not a terrible person. Despite what he did, he is an amazing father. Our daughter adores him, and his son admitted that while they don't condone what he did, they were able to get past it because he's such a great dad, and they know that he loves them more than anything. Even his ex-wife admits that he's a great father and has repeatedly tried to get their daughter to forgive them. He and his daughter were very close before the affair, and I feel like his daughter threw away a loving relationship to punish and spite him, and even using her kids to do so. There's a dark cloud that's hanging over this entire family, and everyone feels like they have to walk on eggshells to ensure that she and us aren't at the same events. My husband is so desperate that he even mentioned reaching out to her husband, who he has never officially met. Now, thankfully, my brother-in-law and I seem to have convinced him not to. I would be willing to be on the outskirts if she would at least want a relationship with her father and her sister, but she hates us so much. I'm sure I'll get all kinds of hate in the comments, but I'm just looking for any advice on how to move forward. So firstly, yes, I agree. Very stupid idea for your daughter to easily figure it out when you just start living together after getting a divorce. Like, God, at least maybe go out shopping while the daughter's there so she could kind of acclimate to the sudden change of her life as a teen. Gets others to say, cheaters never seem to grasp the fact that nobody owes anyone a relationship. I guess they're so used to getting all the love they want, they think it should be automatic from everyone? So weird. No, but you don't understand. Hubby has a sad now. No. I mean, everybody had to just deal when he decided to break up his family and leave his children. Those children were expected to cope with absolute heartbreak that they couldn't possibly understand during their formative years. He and OP bravely decided to live with it. Oh, but now he has a sad. So they have to forget about all that he did to them. I mean, gosh, the daughter's a grown adult now. She should learn to just forgive and move on, right? I don't know. I feel like that's something I would say. Because let's be real, I do feel like the daughter is dragging this out quite a bit. Of course, we are basing this all on OP, the other woman's opinion. But everyone else in the family, even his ex-wife, says that he's a good man, aside from, being a cheating scumbag. Like, you can think someone's a scumbag in regards to part of themselves, but still ultimately agree that they are a good person in other qualities. I don't know. Like, I could have a cousin who is a huge drug addict and, like, a criminal record, but I'm still going to invite him to cookouts and barbecue events, Like, personally, I don't think this punishment is necessary anymore. And I say that as someone whose parents did divorce when I was a teen, so it's hard. I don't know. Let me know what you think, and we'll move on. And now in r/off my chest, where this story's alternate title is
I treated my son like crap all his life. Why doesn't he like me?
For the longest time that I can remember, I raised my son on tough love. I only have one child, so I wanted to make sure he knew how to take care of of himself in the chance that me or his mother were not around anymore. It was the only parenting style that people I had growing up with knew because of the struggles people my age faced as kids. Parents were both busy or working that they didn't have time to spend all their time with their kids or be heavily involved. So I took that as my experience as to how to raise kids. Me and my wife raised our son to be ready to be an adult from a young age because we were afraid he would make the same mistakes we did or become gullible and impressionable. Already starting out strong with that justification and complete lack of reflection on if it's a good idea. My parents treated me like this and I turned out fine. Oh, looks like my kid did something he didn't realize is wrong or not. I better emotionally outburst and physically hit him for it. My son would show up with bad grades, and I told him he needed to do better as the world is tough, because it is, and he hadn't truly experienced it yet. I would tell him to focus on his studies rather than goof off with his friends on weekends, and during the summer, I would drop him off to coaching for subjects he needed to get stronger on. My parents never had all the money in the world to take us on vacations, and I didn't either, so I wanted to set him up to succeed. Every dollar I would make was used to keeping a roof over our heads and making sure we never went hungry. While my son was young, he would often ask why we never went anywhere or would eat out. I told him that it was because if spent all our money wastefully, we'd be living paycheck to paycheck. Unlike right now, where we choose to live like the bare minimum. That makes it better. Don't you feel like this life is so much better, child, because you know your parents are choosing to make you live a poor life? Yeah. I noticed the biggest difference when he went to college. I told him he will have to pay for his things or take out loans, because that is how everyone goes about college in the US. Well, while he was in college, I noticed how independent he was. There were very few things he needed help with. Me and my wife felt like we had succeeded in raising our son. But after college, he came back and I started noticing a huge difference in behavior towards me. He talked to his mom the same way, but he became very cold and resentful towards me. There would be times where he would call me out on my mistakes, and I thought they were uncalled for. I told him recently I wasn't feeling well, and he completely dismissed and told me that I needed to stop complaining. Him disregarding my health was the first time I thought that I did not succeed because the relationship between me and him was broken. He cares for his mom the same way he did back then, but not for me. I told him about how I felt, and even then, he said he could care less about our relationship and that he has more important things to handle regarding work and his future. I feel awful because he said, I don't have to care because I don't really see you as a father. You should be used to this. At this point, I don't know what to say because he's finally doing well in life, but I don't matter to him anymore. Hey gang, I'm not gonna lie, I actually feel sorry for the dad because of as scummy and heartless he was to his son as a child. I mean, he says it all in the first paragraph. He genuinely doesn't know any better. Now, of course, that doesn't excuse someone when you're being a parent. There is so much education out there for you to learn to do these things better than just copying what your parents did to you. But still, man, I always agree, consequences for your own actions, but sometimes it can still be rather sad when you're dealing with the consequences. As some comments put on their little psychologist glasses. Yeah, it was the stop complaining in response to being sick that made me think that something the son remembered all his life and finally had the courage to throw it back in his father's face. Hey, I'm all for tough love, but god damn, if you can support your kids when they really need it, that's what counts the most. People don't remember what you do for them. They remember how you make them feel. And now suddenly feelings matter when it's your feelings. And I agree, a lot of my love for my parents definitely comes from the moments where they've shown support and care for me. Yes, they paid for my house as a child. They paid for my food. But okay, let's be real, people. That is the bare minimum of parenting. Ooh, congrats, you can afford a child. What do you think, though? Do you think the father deserves some forgiveness? Is this another example where someone is being a bit too petty with their spite for someone? Let me know what you think and we'll move on. Now, imagine inviting 10 strangers to an event you are not hosting and being shocked when you're expected to deal with those 10 guests. Am I the a-hole for inviting my kids and grandkids to a family event? Later this week, my father-in-law is hosting a birthday party for himself at his house. He's turning 85 years old, which I feel is a momentous occasion, and 16 people are already confirmed to be invited, so I thought it would be fine if I invited my kids and grandkids as well. The more the merrier, right? Well, it's 10 additional people in all. 3 kids, their spouses, and 4 grandkids. And when I revealed that I had already invited them, I expected my sister-in-law, who was organizing the party, to be excited. Instead, she got furious at me. She said that they had only planned for 16 of us to come and that inviting so many people at the last minute would require too much planning, additional food, more seating, etc. But here's the kicker. My sister-in-law expected me to cook all of this additional food and make a big cake as the person planning the party. I think that she should be the one responsible for this, especially since it was such a massive oversight on her part not to invite so many of my family members in the first place. Let's just clarify here. This is not their grandfather. This is their father-in-law. OP is someone who is married into this family, and so technically is inviting people that aren't actually related to the father-in-law whatsoever. Well, I told her this on the phone, and she went off on me. She said that I had been extremely selfish, and that someone who's turning 85 years old would be overwhelmed with so many house guests. He's already going to have a big party. Why would 10 more people, 4 of whom are kids who will just run around and play by themselves the whole time, make a big difference? I did my best to bite my tongue and listen to her concerns, but it was difficult. I feel like she has no compassion at all for me sometimes, and I think the real root cause of her anger is that she simply doesn't like my family. I now have a choice to make. I can either buy a whole bunch of food and prepare it with only a few days' notice, or uninvite everyone. This seems incredibly unfair to me. I asked my husband what he thinks, and he said he can see things from both sides, which is such a cop-out, it's unreal. I need him to back me up on this, but he refuses to do so. I just feel like I'm the only one with my head screwed on straight, and it sucks. I want my sister-in-law to stop being such a bully and to see things from my perspective. The whole thing just depressed me and makes me angry. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add, all 3 of my biological children are from a previous marriage, so none of my kids are his grandkids and none of their kids are his great-grandkids. So I'm even further detached from the man whose birthday it actually is. Also, you gotta love the justification of the kids. Like, oh boy, 4 little children who don't belong to anyone in the direct family running around being obnoxious in an elderly person's home. That's not stress-inducing at all. Just an incredible display in audacity, hands down. And now for a great moment of someone blaming someone else for the problems that turns out are actually their own. Today, I discovered that it's scientifically proven that women are the ones who are supposed to seek out younger men. Today, my sister and I found out something surprising. Men often blame women for fertility issues, but it's actually the other way around. My sister and her husband had trouble having a baby. He's 35, she's 25. After months of trying, he accused her of being infertile and threatened to leave her for a younger woman. So, my sister went to the doctor, and I went with them since I drive. Well, turns out neither of them was the problem. It was her husband's testosterone levels. The doctor said that men start naturally losing testosterone around 25 to 30 years old, which leads to a decrease in libido, a decline in sperm quality, and a reduction in the ability to maintain an erection. He assured my sister that women don't usually have fertility problems until they're much older, like in their 40s or 50s when the menopause hits. My sister joked about finding a younger man, but her husband got mad and stormed out. It's funny how men have always blamed women for fertility issues when it's actually their thing. But hey, we've got too much self-respect to think like that. Oh no, trust me. There are many women who would jump at the opportunity to be as sexist as the men they despise. But now, in their defense, they've likely dealt with enough BS men in annoying and genuinely traumatic ways that I honestly don't blame them for thinking as such about men in general. And, well, it's a nice notable red flag for your sister to see how a 35-year-old man reacts to something that doesn't go his way. Incredible display of humility. Are you sure you want to have kids with that human being? I mean, even add to the common knowledge fact that men's testosterone levels are dramatically lower in general and have been declining since their the 1980s. Apparently, this has got something to do with the rise in obesity, and, well, others bring up the idea of microplastics too, which I believe that's got to do with phthalates, which was something I read up on about 2 years ago, which they've already started phasing out. So it's one of those things where it is actually kind of old information that all this is happening, where we actually are making efforts to fix and reverse it. So no need to panic, gentlemen, and ladies who want babies. Now over to this weird character's third arc. My wife left me after she got in shape and now wants to get back together. I am not sure why I am posting this. I probably want some validation, and as my life has turned upside down recently. So I'm 32 male, and I was married to my wife, 33 female, for 4 years, and we had a great marriage so far. I was madly in love with my wife. She fell into a depression mainly due to her job in 2022. I tried to support her in every way and suggested her going to gym or doing any kind of sports to distress. I had my own depression episode before we got married, and what saved me was going to the gym. She agreed to that, and we started going there together. I could not go as frequent as in the past since my workload got heavier after my promotion. However, I tried my best to be there with her. She used to be a bit chubby, which I loved, and after seeing some changes with her body, she started to go there regularly. It also helped her with depression, and she got better. I was really happy to see her get better and livelier. She looked more confident, it got more aggressive in bed, and so on. However, after a while, that confidence level started to affect our relationship for worse. She started going to parties and going outside to a point she completely stopped doing her share in the house. That proceeded with me seeing her getting flirty with a guy at a meetup we went. I communicated my feelings to her, and she dismissed these. Now, after several of these, I had her sit down with me and told her that she is riding high on her newly found confidence and emotions right now. I clearly stated that she should not make decisions or actions according to that confidence right now. I know it well. It was one of my worst traits. I used to be extremely emotionally driven in the past. I suggested we go to a marriage counselor, and hell broke loose. She said vile things to me, like how she realized she settled down with me after getting better and she could do so much better than me. She said I am insecure and other things. This woman used to be the sweetest person on earth, and I was shocked after hearing the things she said to me. She filed for divorce the following month, and I did not hear much from her other than some lawyer talks. Our court seeing is scheduled to be next month, and my lawyer told me there is a high chance it'll be concluded then. There is not much to share. Similar income, only shared asset is our joint account, similar savings, and no kids. House is my mom's, so it's out of division. I accepted my marriage is going to end like that. Last week, she called crying and told me she regrets everything. She apologized over and over again, but I felt disappointed. Not angry, not sad, but just disappointed. She did not text me nor call me even once since the divorce started. I did not even know where she was since she just left the home. I told her there is no going back now. She has been messaging me nonstop. My family supports my decision and tells me I should not back down. My in-laws were shocked when they heard about the divorce. They are now telling me to rethink everything. Now, I will 99.9% not back down, but as I said, I'm just looking for validation and maybe wanted to vent. Thank you for reading. So the best excuse I can give this woman is the reason she went no contact is maybe because by then she already felt ashamed? But let's be real, it's very much not likely the case. I mean, cut and dry, it didn't work out with the new guy, so she's falling back to plan B, aka you. He most likely wooed her with lies and is now showing his true colors. Continue with the divorce and cut her off. Yeah, though OP doesn't really give the context of it, it does seem very clear that she has just tried to look for greener pastures and realized that she had it greener the entire time. Now look, sometimes it's worth making that risk to check if that's possible, especially if the grass you're at right now isn't the best. But, you know, is the grass really that bad where you are right now? Or is it possible the grass is greener on the other side because you're not there screwing it up yet?